Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Weplay Invitational Round 16 with TCM and AT-Gaming for the first best of 3. I am Pulse and I'm joined by Spuddington.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the coverage from Chaos TV on this game. It should be an interesting one. We have seen both of these teams before, and I've got to say actually TCM, well, that's they're a very strong team and we've seen a fair bit of them. AT-Gaming appear to have all got the wrong, all except one actually have the wrong tag, which is just going to confuse me.
Yeah, it looks like they've had a few roster changes, which is hardly surprising considering the new season is upon us, Spuddington, and that will be very confusing. So we'll see how this goes. I'm sure I will call them TFS or whatever that is, because I can't see over the stream right now, at some point during the game. But Olaf will be the first pick from TCM. There's been a lot of discussion about Olaf very recently, Spuddington. We were having a discussion about Olaf Jungle and also Olaf Top, and it has been Flavour of the Month in Korea.
Yeah, we saw him yesterday and the day before. Both times, actually, Olaf Jungle. So it worked out in the games yesterday. I remember when I was casting with you, Pulse, we cast a Team Dig and it didn't work so well for them. This time, though, well, it seems to... if ever I question these kinds of things and then they keep showing up, I just have to start really seriously re-examining why I'm questioning the decision, because it definitely worked out. I would say, though, last time, we actually saw Jax and Olaf picked at the same time. And the interesting thing was they used Olaf to kind of babysit in a 2v1 scenario. And that actually meant that both of them got a little bit more XP than they would normally have done in that situation. So you end up with Jax and Olaf, both with a lot of XP, which makes both of them very scary.
Yeah, indeed. He was kind of going with that Meteor style where he was going from lane to lane and picking up some extra experience. And we were saying, well, Olaf Jungle would really cripple himself as a character because he wouldn't have those extra levels. He would find it very difficult to itemize efficiently because you're not getting the same gold income. But because he was taxing the lanes, he was getting the XP. He was at the right stage in the game. They ended up losing anyway, Spuddington, but it worked for his character specifically. I believe he went double Doran's Blade, which made up for the extra health that he'd be losing from normal itemization. It also gave him the early game damage that he needed. So on the opposite side, we've got Lucian and Riven picked up. Riven, known as a very sort of snowbally top laner, could also be played mid lane, has a lot of good matchups against many of the current AP carries. And Lucian is an AD carry who's been seeing a resurgence, or actually just starting to see him in competitive play. People are realizing Lucian is incredibly strong, seen as more of like a mid-game AD carry, likes to pick up the Trinity Force, so very similar to Corki and Ezreal kind of Season 2 style.
Yeah, I would actually also say, though, the Riven pick here is a little bit interesting because they know they are potentially up against Jax, so that's more or less signaling an intent that's going to be a Riven mid. You don't generally want to play Riven versus Jax because if you get in a 2v1 situation, Jax will outscale you, and if you end up in a 1-on-1, unless you can really snowball it early and hard, it's going to go Jax's way, and eventually it will go Jax's way regardless. So, a little bit unlikely to see that as anything other than a Riven mid, but you never do know. And we actually have Misfortune along with Thresh and Lucian at the same time, so...
Funky.
Is that a Lucian top?
It definitely could be, and we saw Quinn a couple days ago alongside Lucian, so again, two kind of mid-game AD carries. And Misfortune, I guess, sort of fits the bill, but at the same time has better late-game scaling than Lucian will, so they'll still have a traditional AD carry. And as we'd already mentioned, Riven will be a very risky pick top lane, but if you're going to pick her that early on, it's most likely going to be the mid lane. So, as you said, it will most likely be that top lane Lucian, which would be very interesting indeed. He's got a very good laning phase. We know that Lucian trades very efficiently in the bot lane. Whether he'll trade as efficiently in the top lane, we'll have to see. Especially against Jax, he'll have the upper hand in the early couple levels. But with the knowledge that Olaf, well, if he follows the same sort of playstyle, will like to be in the top lane, at least getting some XP, we'll see how Lucian does there.
You have to wonder, though, are AT-Gaming, even if their laning phase works out for them, are they picking themselves into too squishy of a team comp right now? Riven, yes, she has a shield to keep herself alive, but for either a top or a mid laner, she's pretty low on the tankiness scale, a little bit risky to dive in first. And that means they need to take a jungler right now that is going to really set up their team and simultaneously peel for all of these major damage threats that they're running, which could be really difficult. Is that... Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, myself and Pulse are casting from the stream at the moment, so we're a little bit behind. Is that a Rumble, which would mean a Riven jungle?
My mind would be blown, Swiddington. This is all-in laning phase, team, and if we lose the laning phase, FF20. Like, they have almost no avenues of initiation apart from a stray fresh hook, which you can't really rely on, and then it's just running into them is your form of initiation, and you're not even running something like a volley there. So, it's an interesting lineup for Swiddington, I have to say. We saw the double AD carry composition because they knew that it could kite the opposing team composition. Well, this time around, we've got more initiation from TCM, so either they win laning phase or they get destroyed.
Yeah, it really does feel like they could have a lot of problems if that happens. I think we may have had a remake though, so I have to question, was there a placeholder pick at any point? Ah, okay, so apparently Aatrox was picked here. So for anyone who doesn't know, placeholder system is in place in this tournament. Basically, we're playing on the live client, so if someone doesn't have one of the champions that they want to pick for their team right then, they pick a champion, they declare to the other team that that champion represents someone else, in this case Aatrox, and then when they reach the end of Champion Select, they quit out the lobby, remake the lobby, go back into Champion Select and pick the exact same champions, but with the placeholder swapped out for whatever he is replacing. So Aatrox would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, indeed. Because we were very confused. We were like, wait, is that Riven jungle? I mean, Rumble jungle can kind of clear the jungle, but then when you get into like mid-game team fights, good luck. But yeah, Aatrox would give them not only initiation, but a little more tankiness and diving potential, which would get your lanes rolling. It's not a Lee Sin, but I believe he was actually banned out. So Aatrox is like your next best bet if you're going to go for that type of playstyle. Still very risky. I have to take another look at TCM's lineup in terms of champions, because I didn't write them down and I have a terrible memory, but at least from what I do recall, they had much better initiation, and if they have some sort of ball carrier, even if they just have fiddlesticks, it's going to be so difficult to position yourself as 2 AD carries around that.
Yeah, they don't have one single massively amazing initiating ball carrier. They don't have Malphite. What they do have is, as you say, Fiddlesticks. They also have Jax. They have Olaf. They have a lot of characters who will be in the middle of the fight and they can attach. So it looks like the placeholder was misfortune, and that does clear up a lot of questions, because that means we now have a Lucian for the bot lane, which means, of course, no Lucian in the solo lane, which means the Rumble pick makes a lot of sense, because you can put that in the top lane, or possibly the mid lane, but probably top lane, up against Jax or in a 2v1, and he will do pretty well. So, yeah, that means we've got the full comps, and TCM are just picking in that last Wait, it was Varus before, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was indeed. There was no placeholders from TCM, and that makes a lot more sense. Now they have initiation, they have a more rounded team composition, and they have lanes which will do well against their respective matchups. So this will look to be a very tight game indeed, Spuddington, and from our initial estimates of how this game was going to go, we're going to have to re-evaluate knowing that that misfortune was in fact a Aatrox.
Yeah, it would have kind of fitted with a lot of the themes in their team comp, that being fairly AoE, fairly strong in those small engages, but I don't know, as it happens, that is a very strong team comp they have actually picked themselves here. Going to be interesting to see how that mid lane matchup goes between Riven and Orianna. I think that could be one of the major keys to see how this game goes. But regardless, guys, we are going to be moving into a quick commercial break now, because we are in the delay timer, and there's not much point talking for 3 minutes if we can't do anything in that time. So we will be just going into a break right now, he says, repeating himself. Goodbye, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to TCM versus AT-Gaming. This is the round of 16 in the Weplay Invitational Tournament. I'm Spuddington, joined once again by Pulse.
Hey, how's it going? And we're seeing both of these teams, well, in fact, TCM going for the aggressive moves, in fact, just the kind of more defensive wards, more conservative wards in the river, and a defensive play coming in from AT-Gaming, and that tag is really going to start annoying me at some point. So, we do see TCM heading up into the top river. We'll see if they go for this invade. This could get nasty very quickly as the hook comes out, lands onto Barney D, the huge burst damage comes out, and Barney D drops immediately. They go with the follow-up, not sure if they're going to pick up another kill, but first blood goes to AT-Gaming. Belgian B still on the point of contention, and that was Riven picking up the first blood. Flamespitter still coming out, and they force out the second flash.
So getting multiple flashes and getting Riven kills, that is really, really important stuff. My game is actually still loading because I am a Burk and forgot to load into the game early, and I hope nobody noticed that. But I am now able to see what is going on.
It's fine, you're the color caster. If it was the play-by-play caster, it would be very noticeable indeed, but it's not going to be an issue. So we were talking about AT-Gaming's composition and how it has a very good laning phase and very good transition into the mid-game. Basically, regardless of how badly they do in the laning phase, they'll still have a mid-game available to them. But TCM, we both consider to be a team who will make those bigger, big-picture plays and team movements, which should be the downfall of AT-Gaming, because they look like a new lineup. We know they're very good in solo queue, so they should be able to hold their own in lane. But when we get into mid game and when we start hitting the roaming phase, I feel that's when TCM are really going to kick in as a team.
Yeah, TCM are an extremely experienced lineup. They may be the longest standing challenger lineup in EU which hasn't had a change. I'm not 100% certain on that. Kind of depends if you count MYM, I suppose. But you've got to say they're a long-standing team, they're an experienced team, and they have shown themselves to be really, really good both individually and as a team. So, you know, they are the kind of guys who were able to take games off the old Copenhagen rules. We'll see if the new Copenhagen rules are still up to snuff later on today, actually, I think. Yeah. But it's one of those things where it may not be obvious early on, but if they get that lead, it's unlikely AT-Gaming will be able to pull it back.
Yeah, indeed, and they're kind of reliant on doing well early game as a result of their team composition, but the first blood is really going to help towards that regard. So, at the moment, they're doing kind of standard laning phases. Riven's going to be actually behind Orianna in lane, but has picked up the first blood. Opted for the boots, interestingly enough, over like a maybe all-in build, such as a red pot or maybe another Doran's item. So, what do you think about that, Spuddington? Do you think she sort of got it all in, or do you think the boots will help her out in the long run?
Well, remember that for Riven in this situation, and they're actually going to set this up on the mid lane, Belgian Beast in trouble.
Yeah, indeed, as Aatrox comes in from the side, Blades of Torment comes down, and the auto attack's dropping very low, so still have the passive, won't be taking the last turret shot as Nuru Terranor comes in 1 versus 2, looks to finish off one of these kills, and Sean's will drop into his blood well, now trading off against Olaf once again as he jumps over the wall with Dark Flight, and both of them get out of dodge.
He was looking for the axe at the end there.
Indeed.
But that is actually what I was just about to say. Boots for Riven in a matchup against Orianna essentially are the all-in item because they give her that ability to catch up, to avoid the damage, and Sean's is in a battle to the death with wolves. I was thinking I had missed some action on the map there. Are you sure you don't want to play-by-play that? Because
I was about to. He was dropping very low spinning, especially if he had activated Bloodthirst.
Get the height going. No, but serious note though, Boots gives her the ability to get aggressive, and it gives her the ability to set up ganks with the jungler.
Yeah, indeed, and that's exactly what we saw. There's the flash comes in from Zacian and whiffs both of the skill shots, and he has to awkwardly walk back to the minions.
Nobody saw that, I assure you.
Don't worry, it wasn't streamed.
He didn't get it. He didn't. Oh, no. Okay, right. Well, he's going to resume laning, but that's quite an expensive error, especially considering Nuru Terranor is thinking about going for this very, very soon. Zacian is extended a long, long way.
Yeah, and they know he doesn't have the flash to force the engage to happen. Matroko drops on back, but Olaf comes in from the backside as Undertow picked up the first kill. Now moving on to Crazy. Cap still has his flash available, and he will be flashing out. Bonnie D, 3 seconds on the Terrify, and has the flash up in 10 seconds. Root Terrador, he's going to chuck an axe and walk on out.
In fairness, by the way, to Zaician there, he did actually make the right play. He just executed it poorly. If he had actually done that correctly, it probably would have resulted in a kill. So that does now mean, though, that AT-Gaming are going to be reliant on Lapras here, who is a Pokemon, but he's also playing Riven with the kills. They kind of need to snowball off the back of her, because Lucian will support her well if she ganks, Thresh will support her well if she ganks, but in a straight 2-on-2 now, they're going to start falling behind.
Yeah, indeed. And now in the top lane, we just had a bit of action as Rumble was trying to take down JWoww, and will be dropping very low and is picking up a pretty large CS advantage, which is honestly to be expected in that lane matchup, and there hasn't been any influence of the junglers either, so Jax is still going to find it pretty hard until he either picks up a kill or he gets ahead. But Rumble essentially has to win that lane matchup to be have any sort of relevance against Jax in the mid game.
Got to give some serious props to Xerius, though. He's actually 20 CS ahead of Jax already. That is a big gap between the two of them. And he needs that kind of gap in order to keep himself ahead of Jax, just on the grounds of how strong JWoww will be getting. And we know he's a very skilled Jax player as well. But that is some seriously good ACSing out of Xerius, because Rumble is really hard to CS on. And also just ability to keep Jax the hell away from the minion line.
Yeah, indeed, and they're looking to set themselves up for a gank as well, as Rumble comes in from the side. JWoww just going to trade some auto attacks, in fact doesn't get in range. Both of them have very interesting auto attacks at the top lane, and Aatrox still waiting in the wings as Equalizer comes down and attempts to cut off the escape route. He thinks about going in, but Sean comes up from behind, doesn't have the Bloodwell passive, can't go all the way onto this tower, but can at least still do some damage as Rumble will be tanking this one up. As JWoww drops incredibly low, the flash will be burnt from Rumble, and they get on out, but Olaf is coming in from the side. Will he find himself with the right escape route? He just knows he needs to hang on with Lapras coming in from the top side, and Orianna will be reacting, going toe-to-toe, auto attacks, and Broken Wings comes out, CC's there at Terrador, and Belgium meets us here. He lands a huge shockwave onto Rumble, picks up one, and the ultimate, the wind slash comes out from Lapras, finished off by Sean's.
Sean's got himself back up onto decent health to get there for the end of the fight. Very close to picking up another kill for Lapras there, but that is still going to be actually probably slightly in the favor of Rumble as opposed to Jax, but it does mean he's not increasing his lead in other ways right now. And Jax is kind of slowly maybe catching up by comparison. He has now hit level 6, so it's going to be interesting to watch that lane and see if he can get himself back into it, because JWoww still 20 CS behind. Sork Shoes already picked up by Rumble. That's quite a bit of damage to be alarmed by.
Indeed, Sean's going to be counter-jungling this red buff away, knowing that Olaf was forced away in the top lane, and Orianna finds herself 10 gold in the form of the Lizard. We do have the bot lane reacting, Bonnie D forcing the flash as Zaician came down looking for the hook. Thought we were going to see the 4-man collapse, but good reaction from TCM, and I would like to talk about the Olaf build, because this is essentially what we were talking about, Spuddington. How is Olaf efficiently going to build himself into the mid-game, late game, when there's not that much available to him in the jungle? The answer? Doran's Blades.
The most efficient item in the game, as I think.
One of them, yeah. Doran's Shield, probably, yeah.
One or the other. You can't really value the block passive though, so maybe
that's true.
I don't know. Regardless though, all Doran's items are literally the most efficient way you can spend your gold. The problem is you clog up your item slots. As you can see, Neuroterrador already has, well, if you count pots, a full build. And that's alarming. We've actually got the Equalizer on top, and I think he's just using it to clear. That does mean right now Neuroterrador is very strong. That kind of means though that he needs to start making plays off the back of that build, or it's going to come back to bite him when he comes to build a big item. Expect to see him build Shredder's Reverie soon. He's coming in behind Lapras.
He is indeed looking for that Undertow to connect, but well, the counter to Olaf, as he has no gap closer, is to simply walk away from him. And the invisible Drake will be soon taken by AT-Gaming.
Wait, can you still fix that by messing with the fog?
I'm going to give it a shot. Oh, no. It died before I could even try. Yeah.
So. Maybe. But though, well, regardless though, doesn't matter. Lucian going to be returning to that bot lane. Everyone else just resetting to their respective lanes. And gotta say, actually, right now, AT-Gaming starting to claw themselves ahead.
Yeah, they're really snowballing this off the back of that first blood, and this is exactly what they need to do with this composition. Honestly, I like the build from Olaf, not only because it synergizes very well with Olaf jungle, but the fact that he needs that in the mid-game to really stand toe-to-toe with the team of TCM-Gaming, because we know they're kind of very heavily focused in the laning phase and mid-game, so if they don't win or take a heavy advantage in the mid-game to stay above that curve, TCM will eventually out-team fight them and outfight them basically in all of their respective lanes. So they're going to have to do something in the early game, and they're doing it. They're already ahead by 2k gold.
You can see how alarmed TCM are by the possibility of this game snowballing against them, by the sheer number of Doran's across the board. You've got Doran's rings, you've got multiple Doran's blades and a Doran's shield. You've got 2 characters with 3 Doran's items on TCM, essentially. That could come back to bite them, but if it can get them through this phase of the game without them falling too far behind, it'll be a worthy investment for them. And I think it's also a good thing to note that Shirelia's Reverie only ever requires 2 item slots, so you can actually manage with 3 Doran's items and only the 2 slots filled for Olaf, although the machete could be a bit of a problem there.
Yeah, indeed. You always have to think about how many item slots are you going to need in that mid-game with your kind of core item build, and you could just fill the rest in with Doran's items. One of the reasons why we did actually see a lot of mid laners go for triple Doran's ring at one point, even 4 Doran's rings as a result of that. Sean's going to see himself a Naruto as he walks on into the lane. Not sure what he's really hoping for here. I mean, the lane Olaf ganks aren't incredibly strong unless they can chain this together or bait out the engage. As Shorts comes in from the side, Naruto looking to drop him into his passive and will indeed do so. Lapras still sitting on the edge. Bells and Beast still has his ultimate available, but is out of mana. Auto attack finishes that one off, and Lapras looking for the second kill into Belgian Beast. Doesn't go the right way with broken wings. Will still be a 1-for-1.
And a very close engagement going on at the same time in top lane. JWoww having to get himself out of there, but did not have to use his flash or ignite. Rumble using his ult and his ignite to get that. Probably what you'll actually see now is Xerius really wanting to take that tower as soon as possible, because the longer top lane goes on now, the worse it's going to get. You can already see the CS gap between the two of them creeping closer as JWoww gets that farm. At least in proportional terms. It does look like TCM for the moment, though, are going to hold on to that top tower. There was no one around, obviously, because of that mid lane fight to help push it down.
Yeah, indeed, that's very important, in fact, and I was going to say we might see Aatrox going up there to secure that and kind of accelerate the game into the mid-game laning phase, but they don't really need to at the moment. I mean, TCM-Gaming are doing well enough in their lanes that they don't need to accelerate it just yet, but that's still available to them, and they know Rumble is still able to deal Jax one-on-one. It's just kind of knowing and getting a feel for the top lane and knowing exactly when Jax gets to the stage where he's Jax and he will one-on-one anyone on your team.
I want to just note, actually, Xerius in this top lane. Further to that, he is probably going to want to get a jungle gank and help push the tower down as soon as possible thing. Pink warding Tribrush. It's 2 purposes. JWoww now, as long as he doesn't know where Aatrox is on the map, cannot afford to play as aggressive as he wants to. And Jax versus Rumble, you have to play aggressive to come out ahead, or Rumble will grind you down. That does mean they have a really good chance. Sean's just he's got oracles. That's why they use the lantern. That was confusing to me for a second.
Yeah, indeed. He's increasing the speed at which he can clear out wards by using the lantern. He's also clearing some wards in the tri-bush as well. But right now, JWoww is still going aggressive, knowing that he's in that silence passive, and he's still going aggressive, looking to take him out under the tower. Flash comes down, and the equalizer to deter him from diving the turret. Lapras now comes in. JWoww out of cooldowns. Wind Slash should be connecting any second now. There we go, finishing off the kill onto Lapras and baiting it out. And that's one of the reasons why you can't go aggressive when there's pink wards in your brush.
Yeah, if you don't have absolutely perfect map knowledge, you can be punished really, really hard for it. As it happens in that case, it does seem like the mid tower is going to be punished a little bit, but Sean's Aatrox does have good wave clear as well, so it will work out for them. But still, crucially, forcing a lot of creeps into the tower, but they're not yet taking it. It's down to half health. You may actually see JWoww bring his own pink ward to the lane with him now.
Yeah, indeed, and roaming the Pterodactyl will be picking up the spare gold and EXP, which he won't be too unhappy with, as he will want to be taxing these lanes as hard as possible. Hasn't been doing that as much as we saw Dignitas' jungler do that, which is interesting, considering that Olaf does need those levels of and does need those items, but I guess he's feeling safe enough in his triple Durant build that he doesn't need to itemize at least for the next couple minutes anyway. But as you said, they need to start scaling at some point. Lapras taking some hits from Belgian Beast, but we still know that he's quite far ahead of him, being 4-0-1.
Indeed he is, and it looks to me like Naruterador may have to watch himself here. But both of these members of AT-Gaming know exactly where Naruterador is. They've got mobility boots. Can they chase him down?
Yep, they just revealed themselves out of Fog of War, but Naruterador again just walks on out of there. Riven unable to really follow up and can't really leave the mid lane exposed for too long.
Yeah, and I would like to note actually a couple of things about Riven. One of the reasons he has such a high skill cap is the ability to cancel animations, and there is also another potential gank in the top lane. It could be counter ganked depending on whether Sean is there. But I want, like, for those of you who are looking to play Riven, watch how Riven gets played and look at how many times she uses stuff like E to cancel the ult cast animation. Things like that, those little subtle tricks, can really help you out. Xerius in this top lane, though. He's starting to extend. He's going to find Naruto.
Check the brush, and he finds himself an Olaf in the brush. Jwel still comes in. He jukes an interesting way. Equalizer comes down. Doesn't really affect the trade right here as he goes into that Science passive. Look at the trade up against Naruterador. Ignite still coming down. Oh! Going to be 11 HP.
I think that's the second time he's escaped on that amount of health. However, that's most likely going to be a dragon for top tower trade. Jwel now free to do as much damage as he wants. The question now is actually whether AT-Gaming are going to go for this bottom tower. They probably can't. Matroco will get there before that happens. Actually, he's thinking about going for the dive when they get back in. Barney D, this is trouble.
Don't do it, Barney. Not the second face check as he gets dragged into the bush and the bot comes out. He's surely going to pick up this kill, and DT will with the third hit from Blood First. And takes a piercing arrow to the face. Actually hurts quite a lot, but this will be the bottom tower, most likely falling for AT-Gaming.
Yeah, really, really nice usage there. And I want to point out, it actually wasn't the third hit from Blood First, but he actually essentially committed suicide. He walked into the box and keeled over backwards.
Oh.
It always amuses me when people just walk into the box and die.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess technically that means he's donating the kill to the support, so...
Yeah, indeed, and that might have been his thinking in that scenario as well, but the box does a surprising amount of damage and can be used as a burst damage type of ability. But either way, middle tower looks like it's going to be siege as well. Just great timing calls coming from AT-Gaming all over the board.
Yeah, well, gotta say, considering they're the ones that went into this game less than favoured, honestly, because although they are an experienced team, they're a team we know are good, it's still TCM they're up against. TCM may not be quite TSM, but they are really, really, really good, and we've seen them a lot. So to see them getting roughed up like this is actually quite surprising. In the top lane, there is actually another fight. Xerius in trouble.
Yes, indeed. Equalizer comes down, and Sean comes in for the side. Perfect knockup with Dark Flight, also landing his Blades of Torment, but Jwel picks up yet another kill onto Rumble, and with the tower being down, there's nowhere for Sean to run. Reaction play coming in from Riven. Not sure if she can get here in time to save Aatrox. He flashes over the wall, and they need to start backing off. Riven is looking very scary, but doesn't want to really go for the engage just yet.
Yeah, 2 versus 1 may actually be an option for Lapras if he gets fed enough, but right now she's feeling maybe about a little bit less than optimally confident about it. So going to be just picking up the farm in top lane instead, relying on his team to hold the mid lane, but
might be forced into this 1 versus 2 because they've just aggressed onto him coming in from the side, but high mobility from Riven will get her out, at least for the meanwhile. And we do also have Aatrox coming back into the top lane, so they can't stick around.
Yes, indeed. So going to be just an exchange of cooldowns and a couple of kills going TCM's way, getting that little bit of an outmaneuver on, but Zaician in the mid lane.
Yeah, dukes the hook, and also the shockwave comes in as the Dark Flight comes in as well. Belgian Beast still auto-attacking away, but Rumble flashes in, looking for this kill to happen. Okay, interesting from Barney D, but Belgian Beast is still being chased after, looking for this follow-up, and Darkfly comes up in 1 second. Zonyas comes out, and the Terrify comes onto short. Naruterador and the Cavalry comes in from the backside. Belgian Beast still incredibly low. Hook will land onto Barney D, and Crazy Caps from the side. Auto attacks, and the Light Slinger picks up 1. This is still a very close trade, 2 for 1, and AT-Gaming still looking for more. The flash into the key burst from Lapras picks up yet another kill, and Jwel kind of wanders in and wanders out once again.
major props to Belgian Beast for surviving as long as he did. However, the fact that he did so essentially baited his team in. They tried to engage from that position and ended up in a fight they really didn't want to be in. Naruterador not going to be able to deal with that situation there because he was trying to dive into like 3 or 4 people and did not have Jax in the area closely enough. They didn't even really use Lapras in that fight and they still came out well ahead. He was just there for the final little bit of a glory steal and a kill. But props to Naruterador as well for keeping a really cool head. He's after that red.
Indeed, and rhymes for days from Spuddington. Sean catches him with Blades of Torment, but Ragnarok will be popped in response. JO also comes up to assist, but doesn't really actually need to. So one of the interesting things about this game, Spuddington, is even though the rest of the team has been doing really badly from TCM, the fact that so much effort has been kind of prioritized in top lane from Naruterador because there's been literally nowhere else for him to go, that's Jax, and that's probably their best kind of mid-game, late-game security, or kind of later mid-game security. And as long as they can get JOL rolling, they should have a hope for late game.
Yeah, that is actually true, but they are starting to, well, lose a couple more towers across the map. JOL probably going to be able to defend this top tower based on the fact that they don't actually know where the rest of TCM are right now. But
apart from Matroko is slowly dying in the bot lane. Crazy Caps, one more auto attack should do it. Zaishin just sitting there, throwing out the disrespect, and we'll be backing off.
Style Q points there, but got to question why he didn't just put him down as fast as he possibly could. Lifesteal is important when you're then going to go and push on. But JWoww pushing out that top lane, so it's going to be a straight push race. By the time Crazy Caps gets this bottom lane up to the tower, though, Matroko will probably respawn, or at least TCM will be able to rotate down if they want to. Contention point, though, 40 seconds till Dragon.
And JWoww is still looking to recall. Lapras finds him though, and also Rumble coming in from the top side. This is not a fight he wants. Equalizer is perfectly placed. He will be locked into this as long as possible. Windslash picks up the final kill as a huge push comes in from the mid lane from TCM. Got to be careful with Zaishin off to the side, but they've kind of warded him off with the ball.
Yeah, right now I've got to say, considering how well he usually does, JWoww on Jax, not doing quite as optimally as he normally would. He's been caught out a few times, just straight up making calls he didn't really have the vision in order to make. Going for that gamble and having it not pay off at all. As a result, he's still not strong enough to duel Riven, and that is really going to be a big factor in how the map movements go, because if you can duel Jax and force him back and take his tower while he's there, that gives you a lot of room to maneuver as AT Gaming.
Yes, indeed, and AT Gaming will be aggressing onto this Dragon, picking up very easily. Now it's a question of whether TCM want to go for this engage. Sean has been kind of separated from this team, and Darkfly has just come up, jumping over that wall, and Crazy Cat sprays down the culling as well to push them away. Naruterador popping a flash though, still looking for this kill, even though he does have that Bloodwell passive available to him, and the undertow will be Duke. Lapras still following after, and Shorts could be as aggressive as he likes, and will not be interrupting him, still in the Ragnarok as Lapras still following after. Now he's out of there, he will be CC'd for days, and Lapras picks up the kill, but TCM go for the great timing call, pushing down the mid lane.
Yeah, while that chase was going on, they went for that. Xerius, though, is going to clear that out. They're going in.
Initiation from the side, the flake comes down, and the shockwave not in time to save Barney D. Chains of Corruption comes out from Matroko, and Brummel still looking to follow up. Really smooth coming in from Crazy Cat's flash comes out from Matroko, and lands also the Ardent Blaze. Doesn't quite pick him up, but meanwhile in the bot lane, huge push comes out from AT Gaming from Sean and Lapras.
Yeah, I honestly thought that would go in the favor of TCM there, because AT Gaming committed the Rumble ult and it really didn't clear out the wave completely, and then he ended up dead. They weren't able to keep pushing though. They lost the minion line. They just did not have the answer to Crazy Caps when he appeared for the cleanup. Riven with this much AD pushes fast. Sean's in trouble though.
Yeah, keeps getting caught by those CC skill shots. It's not going to be hard CC, but they will still be chasing after him. Blades of Torment hits Belgian Beast, and it's fairly unlikely they're going to get any further. Flash for an inhib, they're going to take that.
Ooh, Thresh and Crazy Caps.
Yeah, finding themselves JWoww, who's still pushing very aggressively. Flash into a counter-strike, still moving away from him. Zacian gets him with the hook, and the box comes down. They just can't connect with him. JWoww backs on off, calling from over the wall. The safe play right here, and most of it actually whips. But now the follow-up comes in from Rumble. Another leap strike to the minions, but they're just going to eventually pick him off unless he can turn this one around. Buying himself a couple more times with counter-strike. Forces the flash from Rumble, who is still not in a range of Flame Spitter, but Electro Harpoon will pick him on up.
Red pings on Baron, ladies and gentlemen. Riven is actually extremely good. Double lifesteal items means really safe Baron clear. They don't even really need to commit any health to it. Crazy Cap's in the area. He has a lot of damage. The only concern, though, is that Aatrox is lower level. Okay, no, he's not lower level. He's the same level as Olaf, which could make it a 50-50.
And the hook from Zacian also gets the equalizer in another perfect position on point in this game. Barney D also getting chunked down by Lapras. He's very low, and he's still going for this under tower. Doesn't necessarily need it. Has been feared. Also, attack comes down. Neuroterador comes in from the side. Potentially clear up this kill. The rest of the team will be aggressing onto Baron. No reason to do otherwise. And I'm honestly not sure 2 versus 1 they can necessarily win this. But Dark Passage comes out, and Zacian brings his ally to safety. And indeed, the Baron.
Yeah, and that is actually for Lapras. Just watch his health as it goes upwards and upwards and upwards. However, Neuroterador wants the Baron. I don't think they're going to let him near.
But Chains of Corruption means they have to stay in one place. Huge damage coming out from that 180 carry. Sean's drops into his Bloodwell passive. Auto attacks come in from Matraco, and Rumble is still following after Neuroterador, who's completely out of mana. The shutdown goes on to Riven, and this could be cleanup time for TCM. This is going to be incredibly close on the Baron. Crazy Caps, who picks it on up? It will be Lucian. And they still come out ahead, but losing 4 members for the privilege.
Narrow stuff. But the fact that TCM were able to pick up those extra kills on JWoww changes the balance of that top lane push. Remember, if he can duel Riven, that makes him much stronger as a map pressure presence. However, all this time, the bot lane minions are actually now pushing in on their base. And they will have to force JWoww to kind of commit to that. And that means that there is a potential for an engage. If TCM overstay in the mid lane, a Rumble equalizer initiate here could actually be really brutal. And you can see TCM are feeling a little bit scared of that, and they are going to just walk away. I honestly can't tell you who came out ahead on that Baron, though.
I'd probably still give it to AT-Gaming, because they still have that inhibitor, so it was a safe call either way. It was a lot dicier than it needed to be, I mean, that's for certain. But they still picked up the Baron. They've taken that away from TCM as another contention point. So, in that sense, they're just going to continue to win all these team fights. And they've really been on point with their picks. Like, almost every engagement, at least for the last 2, has been on top of a pick. But either way, we will see what TCM can do. I mean, what we know about TCM is they've been together longer, they're going to have greater team synergy. As we said, they're big team movements, even though kind of constricted at the moment as they're unable to really go anywhere apart from their base. But when they do go for those kind of micro engagements, they might be able to pull it ahead.
You've got to give AT-Gaming real respect. They've been team fighting incredibly well, and above all, they've been catching people out and picking them off incredibly well. That is what their comp is incredibly good at doing, no doubt. But they've been abusing their strengths, and they've not been letting TCM's late game strength get to them. They haven't been panicking and making rushed plays. They've very rarely been caught out. And indeed, the only call I can really say that AT-Gaming has made that was maybe a bit iffy was that Baron call. And that was only really because Neuroterador did a great job of stalling.
Indeed, also gets hit by the hook, but not quite the person they want to be initiating on. And also Jax in the bot lane. They've got a little bit of split pushing, but he's basically just being committed to tower defense, as Aatrox can just play the split push game himself. Again, AT-Gaming don't need to go anywhere. They just need to keep waiting for the minion line, chip away at this turret, and then rinse and repeat.
TCM do have very good wave here, though, between the piercing arrow and between the Orianna ball. It's just not that easy, and you can see there, indeed, Undertow as well, something I didn't think about there. But it does feel like they are looking for a potential dive here. Sean's still got maybe 30-40 seconds on the Bloodwell passive, but it looks like they're going under.
Yeah, and looking for that engage from Fresh. Equalizer comes out as well, making it very difficult to retreat already. One casualty in the form of TCM's member. JWoww also gets hooked as well, and CC'd from Riven. The shutdown comes out. Crazy Caps goes incredibly deep. Maybe this is not the play he necessarily wants to be making, but he will be flashing out to safety. Jumps over the wall with Dark Flight. He doesn't have the Bloodwell passive, but it is his life for the AD carries, and they won't be able to siege the mid lane.
It was the play they deserved, but they were able to get some damage down on that mid tower. They were able to force them back and kill Naru Terador. They have a lot of sustain, remember. That means AT-Gaming now have opportunities to push all over the map. And you can see Lapras in the bottom lane is going to force 2 people. If she has flash up, which she will do relatively shortly, she is able to threaten both of them at once. And even if she doesn't, tower's falling across the map.
Yeah, indeed. The fact that Riven is there, even though she's not doing anything, forces at least 2 people to be there, and it makes all the other engagements on the map going to favour AT-Gaming. In fact, it did do, as the top tower fell. So AT-Gaming just don't need to do anything at all. They just need to back off, play it safe, and then just make another power play.
Yeah, and they have definitely got this game by the Capones. They are completely controlling the pace. And at the moment, although they are going to be going back for their heals and their items specifically, they are also stronger in a team fight. And that is the point where a picking composition is really, really strong. Because if you can force an equal stakes team fight and actually end up winning, nobody saw that Lapras. If you can force an equal stakes team fight and come out with a victory, that makes the fact that you are then able to force the enemy to put 5 men to stop your 4 men. That gives you even more opportunities to force them to split up in the first place, because then if they don't have a numbers advantage at all, then they are in trouble because you can just straight up dive them. It's really, really scary times for TCM. They need to do something, or at least just play the defensive game incredibly well right now.
And they're doing that, Spuddington. They're actually not just sitting in their base and kind of waiting for AT-Gaming to make that power play, probably on their inhibitors because there's nowhere else to go really at this stage in the game. They're pushing out of their base but not past the river, just so they can get these defensive wards down and make sure that AT-Gaming doesn't completely choke them with vision, because if they do, then they've basically lost the game anyway. They're making this type of play so they can set themselves up for the next Baron, and if they lose that, then the game probably is over, but they're making sure that they have that option available to them and not just completely cutting off their options.
Yeah, 1 minute 39 left. JWoww finding
Zacian finds him in the jungle. Lots of damage in this burst damage. Piercing arrow comes across. Will in fact tag him. Auto attacks come down, and this is a huge pick from TCM.
Yeah, that gives them an opportunity now to push down this mid lane, maybe to go for a dive if AT aren't positioned correctly, but doubt they'd want to do that against the Rumble ultimate. So that does mean, though, they have the opportunity to split push with JWoww, and at the very least to get some decent vision control over Baron. 1 minute until that spawns. If it spawned then, they might well have gone for it, but that is not an option right now. We'll see how AT work on the defensive.
Yeah, indeed. They're looking to clear it out. Culling will be a very good tool in that regard, but they're being a lot more defensive than I kind of would have expected them to. Blazer Torment tags a lot of people, and finally the Equalizer comes out. Now they're sort of going for an initiation, but kind of not. That was interesting play.
Yeah, the Equalizer put TCM low enough that they didn't actually want to risk fighting even 4 versus 5. That is understandable play from both sides there, but now AT-Gaming know that TCM probably went back. That means they can go around together in order to clear out the ward control over Baron. So although they didn't take an inhib off that though, TCM, they'll be happy with how that whole exchange has gone.
Yeah, do you think they could have actually fought that though? Because that was 4 versus 5 and they had those big ultimates. The culling wasn't used initially, which I think could have probably been able to clear out the minions a lot faster, but they had huge AoE ultimates underneath that tower and they could have locked them down for a long, long time. But they're moving around the Baron area and TCM are going to realise this. Well, we could see another engagement opening up. Who are you favouring for this next team fight?
That depends if AT get the drop on them here. If Naru checks that could be bad. That was close.
It was. The hook didn't quite land, and the ball comes out as well. AT-Gaming keeping it very together, very compact. Got to be careful of a clutch ball engage, but there's no real instant gap closer and ball delivery system for them to be that afraid of. TCM-Gaming still posturing around the area.
That is the slight weakness in TCM's composition at this stage. If they did have an Aatrox right now to carry the ball for them, they could start these fights well in their favor quite often. But right now, they're actually maneuvering around them. And if you're TCM here, you have to be very careful, A, to not get split up, and B, not to get put in a position where AT can just break off and go for either a tower or for the inhib that's exposed. Because remember, they are now tanky enough on several members, especially with Riven Shields and Lifesteal, to just go for buildings without any help. But it looks like they're going to rush down this Baron. JWoww will get there, but they have a very fast Baron clear on this comp.
They do indeed. It's dropping incredibly quickly, down to 50% HP already. JWoww is the only member there. They don't have that AoE ultimate of Oriana's Shockwave, and it will in fact go down to their Pterodor. They get the steal, and now AT-Gaming are kind of trapped in this Baron pit. Barney flashes forward into Crazy Cup, who gets immediately taken down. Their Pterodor also drops in turn, but Lapras is off to the side, dueling and doing what he does best. Will be taken down by JWoww, who out-trades him one-on-one. Shawnee comes in and picks up the next kill. Shutdown comes in for Rumble. 3-for-2 trade, but the Baron goes down to TCM-Gaming.
Incredibly clutch dive in by Naru Pterodor. AT-Gaming made the right call. They were in the right place at the right time, but they just got outsmited by Naru, who ran in and died for it. They did actually end up fighting that essentially to a standstill, but they can't afford to stay at a standstill for that long. AT-Gaming, they are on a clock here. If they cannot get advantages and cannot take them and cannot build more momentum off it, they will eventually have to start worrying about their own exposed inhibitor. TCM are only going to get stronger with time. I will say, though, the fact the Baron is now off the field kind of tells to me that AT-Gaming might think, right, okay, we're just going to go bottom lane and we are going to force this because we have the tools, we have the picking potential. If TCM are forced to try and fight that head up, I still don't think they're strong enough to do it.
Yeah, like AT-Gaming right now are well aware of the fact that TCM are only going to get stronger. They have the better late game team fight and team composition. So what's the play here? Well, they have an open inhib. Then we fight it. If we can't fight them now, we're not going to be able to fight them later. They actually have the Tamarin Dragon. This is a small objective they're going to pick up. Not going to massively affect the game, but it's something, and it will allow Sean to go back and pick up the item he was really wanting. But they're going to have to go for this inhibitor engage, or at least force a team fight somewhere on the map that's going to be even, because they can't afford to wait now.
Yeah, you're dead right about that, essentially. It's this ticking time bomb principle, because TCM have a very ticking time bomb comp. They've got Olaf and Jax at the same time. That is, I am going to run some time bombs for my jungle and my top lane. And in fairness, Oriana, Varus, these are not early game champions. These are really, really strong late game too. And with that extra CC from both of them, really, really, really dangerous. And actually now TCM seems like they feel they are actually stronger. They are the ones forcing the open inhibitor. This could be really, really ugly, but Sean's just hanging around the side. How long till Bloodwell? He does not have it for the fight. If he could get onto the right people, though, they could make this work. Yeah,
this is still the type of engagement that AT-Gaming want, regardless of this situation. They're still seeding away at the inhibitor. They can't really afford to concede this. Atrox just decides to recall. Didn't want to force the engagement. Doesn't have the Bloodwell passive. Maybe that's what they were waiting for. But the inhibitor goes down, and now they're forced to be on the defensive.
Part of the problem that AT-Gaming is now facing is that when TCM is grouped up as a blob, if AT jump in on them, their only real tool to jump in on them is going to be Aatrox, and the biggest problem for him is Fiddlesticks. He will get feared, he will get derped around, and there will be nothing he can do, and by the time he's done with the fear, odds are he'll be dead. That means the follow-up has to all come from Rumble, and he can't do that quickly. That just puts them in a really awkward spot. So that means they kind of don't want to go for the initiation, but if they don't go for the initiation, stuff starts getting poked down. TCM split pushing with Olaf and forcing the bottom tower. Surely AT will go for this, but doesn't look like they can.
Sean still doesn't have the passive. Again, that might be what they're waiting for. They have the knowledge that JWoww has his Guardian Angel, and he's looking very scary. They also know he can 1 versus 1 Riven. Again, something they can't really deal with. The Bloodwell passive might be what they're looking for, just to say, okay, we're as strong as we're ever going to get. Now's the time for the engagement. They're defending this tower pretty well, actually committing the AD carry to Pterodor, so I'm not even sure if this engagement will be favorable for AT-Gaming.
If they can get a really, really good initiation, if they can catch someone out with Riven, with Thresh, with that massive damage they have, maybe. But right now, Zaiqian is not having a lot of luck with his hooks. Right now, TCM is doing a very good job of safely chipping down this tower. You can see it. Just one auto attack at a time. JWoww going up. He'll weak strike out if he gets forced to. But they're going to take that away for free. And AT Gaming, from being so dominant before, are hitting the problem we talked about in Champion Select. They just don't have the late game by comparison.
Yeah, and they're just not above the curve enough to really deal with TCM, and one of those biggest factors was honestly Jax. The fact that JWoww was able to survive his laning phase well enough and get ahead enough that he would still have some scaling into the late game is just enough for them to have that time bomb composition as you were talking about before, Splittington. This is about as zillion as you're going to get to a composition without zillion in it.
Yeah, double Guardian Angel at this point, and indeed Varus looked like he is going for his as well, so scary stuff. Baron's coming up in 1 minute and 45 now, and that might well prove to be another contention point, but honestly at this point, TCM are in control of this game, and I don't see a reason for them to force the Baron. The thing that AT Gaming needed to do was to try and close out the game, and it's actually a common complaint about EU teams in general. They have difficulty, but if they can get this pick, they're not going to. If they could get that pick, that would be really good, but the problem was too many members of TCM unaccounted for at that point. It's a common complaint with EU teams in general. They have trouble closing out games, and it's partly due to compositions like this where the initiation kind of isn't there unless they're way ahead, and their siege isn't that great either.
Indeed, which means that late game compositions kind of start to win a lot, because you anti-siege, you wait until late game. Yes, it's going to be a boring playstyle, but you'll win the game, and that's what counts, right? So, Baron, talking about... Oh god, indeed, one of those games. But, at the moment, not quite as bad as that, as TCM are more of a dynamic team. And now 30 seconds on the clock for Baron, but they can't afford for Zaitian to be picked off once again. But the Rune King comes in from JWoww. Flame goes backwards, and they've engaged the fight elsewhere. Shaw's dropping incredibly low, and Crazy Caps on the back line. Zaitian is forced to back off as JWoww comes in from the side and does ridiculous amounts of damage. Shutdown comes out, and Zaitian still off to the side. The Retardador drops into his Guardian Angel, but they're too clustered. They're still too close. 3 for 0 trade so far. Sean comes out of his Bloodwell passive. Lapras is the only one alive. And the play from TCM is just to barrel down the mid lane and end this game.
They definitely have a lot of tanky players, but they don't have a lot of health on those tanky players. So they're going to go for the safe option. They're going to go for this tower. Lapras can't do anything to stop them. If they dive in, they will die. So it's going to be 2 inhibitors at least. TCM also going to be able to set themselves up for the Baron. And that really is starting to look awful in this situation for AT Gaming. TCM have gotten to a point where they are now stronger. They are never going to get weaker again. Double GA's popped though, so there is still a small chance for AT Gaming's future.
It's possible, but if they had Brumwall alive right now, that would have been perfect. Equalizer in the right place could have deterred them away from the Baron. But after picking up this and then just straight up recalling, it doesn't look like there's any chance for AT to go for another team fight. Yes, they've popped some of those Guardian Angels, but an extra Baron on top of TCM right now, on top of the items they're about to buy, all over 1k. Randuin's Omen picked up. We'll see what else they decide to buy, but they're looking so strong, Spuddington.
Yeah, and possibly they even had this issue where last fight, JWoww, Jax, he was off chasing Zaitian. He was off chasing the enemy support. He didn't even get the kill. He wasn't there for a large amount of that fight, and yet Matraco and Belgian Beast were utterly untouched in that fight. The back line, no trouble at all. The front line, free to jump in and do tons and tons of damage. And I've actually got to say, one of the problems right now is that AT Gaming are feeling the problem with Riven mid. She's no longer able to dive into the middle of the team fights because she's just too squishy. You can actually see she's got the Giant's Belt to try and mitigate that, but honestly don't think it's going to be enough. And if she can't blow someone up instantly, which she can't because Fiddle and all the rest of the CC, she's just not doing a lot of these fights.
Yep, and TCM just take the initiative, push down the mid lane and start sieging down the inhibitor. In fact, Equalizer comes out. They've gone for the last ditch engage as Lapras comes forward. JWoww doesn't have the passive of the Guardian Angel, but he's still going huge onto that Rift and chasing him down into his turret. Body D drops and the Zonic comes out from Rumble, zoning him away from Crazy Cat. Wall auto attack picks it up from Belgian Beast. Meanwhile, Matraco doesn't even fall into his Guardian Angel. 4 for 1 trade, and Zaitian is still alive, but he's not going to be able to stop this onslaught, and the GG has been called.
GG, well played indeed. A really, really good comeback from TCM. But on the flip side, a really strong and impressive mid-game, early-game comp from AT-Gaming. They came so close to pushing TCM over the edge. It's only down to that clutch smite steal from Naruterador at that Baron fight, and indeed that earlier Baron call where the fight was once again instigated by Naruterador and kind of was a little bit messier than it could have been. Essentially, TCM lived off the back of several clutch plays at Baron, and that is what kept them in the game. AT-Gaming coming so close, doing so well to get that far in the first place, and really, honestly, I wasn't expecting them to do as well as they did against TCM.
Yeah, indeed. And at this stage, would be saying, well, do they need to reevaluate what they're going to pick? Do they need to reevaluate how they play the game? And honestly, I think the answer right here, Spuddington, is no. They played it incredibly well. They picked the right champions. They snowballed everything in the right places in the early game, and they made the right plays. They made the right calls. Maybe they could have been a little more reserved, but it's a toss-up between being reserved and making the plays you have to make sure you stay above the curve that is TCM.
Yeah, it was close run stuff. Of course, you cannot always guarantee that your early mid-game comp will do as well as theirs did in that early mid-game. They did manage to get Riven snowballing off the back of a couple of ganks, but regardless, guys, I'm starting to say that too much. Regardless, guys, we will be going into a quick commercial break while we get the next lobby set up. This is a best-of-3 format, so TCM 1-0 up, but they are not going to be getting anything too easily. I'm sure AT Gaming will come out swinging in the next game as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. See you after this.